All right, so it's been quite a while here, and we're finally back with that General Electric universal motor from the World hand dryer, and definitely much easier to work on it when I've got it down here on my bench and I can actually have light and see, rather than working it on it on the floor of my back room. So yeah, I had to get the motor out, I had to take the blower housing apart, which is heavy cast aluminum here, and remove the heater assembly from it. And then I could finally get to the what do you call it? The screw, this thing that holds it onto the shaft, set screw, grub screw, whatever you want to call it. But interesting enough, and I said this in the last video, I don't think it's going to focus on that, but it's patented the Torrington Manufacturing Company, and this thing is here, that side you can probably see it on. It's a little bit stamped in there a little bit harder, but looking at it around here, you can see there's a couple little balancing. They actually balanced it, and there's a little dab of solder over there, and one bigger one over here, and but interestingly enough, how heavy this is, a steel blower cage. This one here is, this one's not a Torrington. This was actually out of the original dryer on the KDS 18 dishwasher. The same size, but I mean, just the weight difference is, I mean, it's obviously taller too, but yeah, anyway, back to the motor. Alright, so we got the motor here. I did crack it apart, so it should be pretty easy to, there we go. And we don't have to take the back housing off because the bearing actually came out with the armature. So as you can see, this back bearing is completely, practically seized here. I mean, it turns, but barely. The grease is like plastic. I'm gonna see if I can. I mean, the front bearing turns a little bit, but not much better. Very rough. So I'm gonna see if I can get this out of here, or if that's probably just stuck in there. We should be able to tap the motor shaft and get that bearing out. Either the whole bearing should come out like it did on the back. Oop, and there it did. And there's our front bearing. And we'll put this little spring retainer clip, we'll drop that back in there, or we'll drop it on the floor. But yeah, I was gonna say we'll put that back in there so we don't lose it, so I'm gonna have to pick that up. And yeah, but yeah, those are some crusty old bearings there. Now I don't know if it appears that they're pressed onto the shaft, so I'm going to have to soak these in a shallow container or something. The grease is still a little soft on there. But yeah, I'm going to go do that, and we will be back shortly. Okay, so it turns out I did not need to soak these after all. Just a bit of work with some spray type electronics cleaner cleaned all the old grease right out of there. And as you can see, they spin nicely now. A little noisy, obviously, because there's no lubrication on them. But that's the rear bearing and the front bearing. So let's get these greased up and we'll get this thing back together. Okay, so we've got the bearings nice and packed now. Nice and smooth. As I think I said in one of the previous videos, this thing appeared to have very low hours, very low usage on it. So first let's put our bearing, our front housing on here. And that slides in there. And we'll drop it into our rear housing now. Let's see if we can get it lined up with the mounting holes, and there we go. Now to reassemble the rest of it. I can get this towel out of the way here. Alright, so all we've got to do is put our through bolts in, and something's not right there. Oh, I see. I was going by the holes in the field coil windings as to line up the front housing with, but the field coils are actually welded to the outside of the motor case, so this actually sits in here like that. There we go. Possibly. Feels like I'm hitting something with the screw. And it appears that there's some of the insulation on the field coil there is touching the screw, which is odd. Why that would... oh no, it's just this little clip that it's touching. Okay. Alright, so drop that back in, and we can put our holding nuts on here just loosely. And getting the second one in is always the pain, it seems. There we go. And now we can tighten up these screws. And it turns nicely. So now we'll put our brushes back in. Preferably in shot. And where did our other one go? There it is. And just to test, we're going to hook it up to our little 12-volt supply and see if we can get it to run at all on that. It's a universal motor. It should turn a little bit, but who knows. And we'll just drop our blower wheel on here just to oh no, dang it. See, when I tapped the front of the shaft, I just was tapping directly on the shaft and I kind of mushroomed a little bit, so I'm gonna have to file that out there to get the blower wheel to fit back on, but works. Cool. Alright, so let me get that shaft filed and we'll be back to reassemble the entire unit. Alright, so I got it back together here, somewhat back together anyway. The motor is mounted in, and I just have it hooked up to the Variac and running at partial power just to make sure there's no, like, I don't know, odd sounds or nothing flies apart. And so let's turn it up to full power. Now this is probably only about, I don't know, maybe not even 50%. So now, let's put the blower housing back on and run and do that again, just see what it sounds like. And the blower housing is just held on with 3 screws here, and the heating element sits inside here like that. So we'll go ahead and put that back together. Actually, I can probably do that on camera if I'm careful anyway, to not smack the camera. Actually, you might turn facing either direction. Like this. This is very power lead right here. I'm just sticking in there, taking it down for now. Okay, that should be better. Yeah. Okay, and 3 screws hold the blower housing together. Whoops. That wasn't quite in its little slot in there. There's like ridges that hold that in place. Luckily it didn't crack. Alright, so let's fire this thing up. Alright, so let's get the heating element hooked back up and test it in operation. Alright, so it's back together and working, and yeah, I'm not going to show anything because I mean, if you've been in a public restroom at any point in time, you know what these things are like. Blows hot air out. So we're just going to look at the motor and the switch here. I'm going to run it. There's hardly any arcing at all on the brushes of the motor, which is very good. Don't know if you'll be able to pick up, if you'll be able to see on the camera what little there are. But yeah. So anyway, let's fire it up. You can see the very small amount of arcing on the motor brushes, which is actually kind of rare to see, really. Especially for a motor that's running at 7,500 RPM. Yeah, but anyway, there we go. World hand dryer. Forget the model number of it. The cover is still upstairs. But yeah, there we have it. And thanks for watching.